Why is it only left to the companies to give? If we can mandate childcare leave, I'm of the view that we should mandate this because we are in an aged society
because
now.
childcare leave is a cost. The government pays for it.
Yeah, and they should take on the cost of aged leave because the reality is we're now moving into this older society.
Excuse me, please don't raid our reserves.
Welcome back to Wise and Shine. I am your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut.
And I'm Dawn. I ship budget bake with my new friend.
She found the tasty toasty over there, you know. Shout out to Chanel and team. And then she was like, "Can I put on sales?" Okay.
Hey, why did that not become a product placement?
Product placement. Yeah. I will invoice you, Chanel.
Hey folks, Rakaesh here again.
And Anthony, market updates.
Repurpose. Yeah. Keep up with the times.
We're back, boys.
So yes, if you have not heard part 1, please listen to part 1. We talk about all the big things, you know, in the Forward Singapore movement, business, jobs, careers, leadership, bread and butter, all the
hard stuff.
Yeah, all the hard stuff, you know. But in part 2, yes, earn money. But in part 2, we are going to talk a little bit about the softer things.
What to do with the money you earn. Money not enough.
Is it just about money?
These
So
are
all
the
your
questions.
family, social, you know, all the inclusivity, you know, all these type of social topics. We're going to talk about this. And all this 2-parter is all built on the Forward Singapore movement. So please can read the 180 documents, 180 pages.
No need to read the 180 pages.
Just listen to us.
We were made to read it by him. And he was like, please
yes.
remember to read all 180 before you come into the studio. We're like,
And
okay.
I reminded them 3 times. Right? So they all
And we all have a very long page of
they all
notes.
very long. I've never seen such a long prep doc in a long time. So that's great. In part 2, we're going to talk about all this family social stuff. So I think ending off part 1, Anthony got something to say about work-life harmony.
Yeah. Because Reggie made us read it, right? So I was reading it at 1 a.m. last night after finishing my work. And then we got to the part about work and life. I was like, we're going to talk about work-life balance. Like, no, it's work-life harmony and flexible work arrangements. All we want for you is that, your employer will let you take your time off in the afternoon so you can bring your elderly parent to the hospital. Then you come back after they come from the hospital. Hospital don't work too late, right? So you come back after so and then you work.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, dude, 24/7, 365, right? There are only so many hours in that day where I'm not sleeping or where I don't need to rest. You are just all this is just a way of piling on more responsibilities, not only work responsibilities, but social responsibilities to an individual. Right? Could we get somebody to bring my parents to work? Could we employ more people so that I don't have to work after I come back from the hospital? There are a lot of ways, right? And maybe if I do this, I will get promoted and I'll be Singapore leadership as all what we all want, and we've talked about in part 1. But at the end of the day, I think this to me is not a good life, right? I want to take care of my parents, sure. I want to do well in my career, sure. Is there a way for these things to be achieved without having to sacrifice myself too much?
So is there a way?
I don't think so.
What's your idea? So you go to work and then your parent got an appointment at 2 p.m. You call hello? You bring my dad to the hospital. I stay in the office
so I
and
think
work.
that the reality now and the reality I've been living for... Okay, so maybe not parents, right? But I have 2 young kids at home. I try to be home for bedtime, which is normally 6:30 we have dinner. So, I think the reality for a lot of people in my position is you leave your job about 5:36, 6:30, you take a 2-hour break, 8:30, you log on again at 9, you work till 12, you go to sleep. Fine, right? I can deal with that life for a relatively extended period of time. I recognize that I need to work, I need to spend time with family, I sacrifice my sleep. But there were, and especially in the last few weeks where there's a lot of work, and even without this 2-hour gap to bedtime, I have to work till 12 or 1 already. Then if I add that 2 hours, I'm working till 3, I already I cannot do that every day, right? So then something has to shift. And inevitably, what shifts is family, right? Because you don't have the power to say, hey, you know what? Sorry, boss, I'm not going to do this extra 2 hours of work. You wait till tomorrow. Or can you hire somebody else so that we all split this amount of work and we all happily log off at 6:30, don't even need to log back on at 10 or 9.
So the answer is work less, earn more.
I mean, the ideal is always work less, earn more, right? As an employee, but the reality is that that's not going to happen.
So
right?
question for you, right? You just point out like, can you hire someone to, so that we all share the load a bit better?
And then cut my pay.
Yes. So what happens if the boss says, sure, we'll cut your pay?
Sure. And at a certain point, and that's why I think it's important, right? You need to have a good job. You need to get to a certain level. But, once you start making a certain amount of money, do you really need that 50K more a year? Right? Does it really accelerate your fire that much in a sense if you want to fire? Or are you happy with, it being a bit more sustainable so you can run the race for longer? Right? That's a trade-off, right? You push and push and push, that's fine. And then you make people sacrifice. Either they sacrifice their family, they sacrifice their health, or they just burn out and they quit. Right? So what's the point, right?
But that's the question for the individual to answer.
No, correct. But then as a society, are we doing anything to show different paths? Are we doing anything to guide employers that maybe there should be a different path? Right? Or that you can open up different paths to other people. It's a very simple example, right? It's like when they first started, MRT getting too crowded, they want to start shifting people to earlier start times and like earlier end times. They did it, That was a government top-down approach. I give incentives here, I give incentives there, and then now MRT 7:30 AM still full, 8:30 not as full as before, right? So things like this work, right? That's the role of government to step in when, to show, hey, you know what? I'll prefer a certain set of behaviors and I'm going to incentivize and push you towards those behaviors.
Yep. And that is what part 2 is about.
Part 2 is supposed to be a happy,
it's fluffy, but I think these are the difficult questions, right?
No, it's true.
I actually think that isn't that being addressed in Forward Singapore because as we move towards an aged society, the reality is like all of us here, for instance, we have elderly parents and the young kids that we have to juggle and our careers, which is why flexible work-life harmony and not balance anymore is being introduced because it is recognizing that in the past we can work 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, 8 to 10, whatever. But now the hospital schedule your dad at a 2 p.m. appointment. And you cannot change it because the hospitals they don't have enough bandwidth either. So if you miss this appointment, I'm sorry, you wait 3 more months later. And it will still be at a daytime work time. So instead of you having to take leave, which the government can't really mandate also because it's company cost, right? What they're saying is companies, please let your employees go and do all these errands for their family and then allow them to continue working at home if there is more work to be accomplished.
But that increases the load on the individual, right? Because it might have been that, you work your job and then somebody else helps look after your dad, right? Now you work your job and you look after your dad. Right, then so that is why I think it's an additional load because previously you might have gone, okay, you know what, I split the responsibility. Maybe there is not a social worker because don't qualify for that, but maybe there's a general system where people help pick you up your dad, that sort of thing, right? And that reduces. So if you can reduce that workload, or either on the personal front, on the work front, then you don't need work-life harmony.
Your dad's appointment, I would assume that you want to go.
Yeah.
I would say that would take priority over your work.
No, so that you don't have to give up on the family part.
It's a question for you, right?
No,
so if we assume, let's take this assumption that your dad has an appointment at 2 p.m. We want to go there first, screw work, right? So that's number one. You're saying I go and then I come back and I work till midnight.
Yep.
Or I have to actually forego what I want to do and hire someone to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think whatever Anthony said, right, is like the worst case scenario, like the worst to worst.
Sorry,
like,
I haven't slept for a very
long
time.
So
how many years?
Guys, renting our life is hard lah.
Life is tough.
So it is what it is, right? But when I look at it, I mean, I agree that we have 24 hours a day, right? So that is essentially, it's a Rubik's Cube, right? Now we're trying to play around like, how do we shift this thing, right? So in a flexible work arrangement, essentially there are 2 things that fundamentally get achieved, right? First thing is you remove transport time, right? So maybe everybody cuts back on 2 hours. We cut that time, right? I think that is important. The other one is about optimizing your day, right? In the sense of, I think fundamentally we all can agree that not everybody is in the best of state in the morning and some people just cannot work at night, right? So I think having that little bit of flexibility where you can move around, because that's kind of how I run the team, right? Like with some of our other guys, they do remote, right? And we have specific touch points that you have to come non-negotiable. Of course, it's a meeting time. And other than that, you just do what you need to do, right? Everything is task-oriented, results-driven. And then, people can adjust their time. They can pick up a call on their way to somewhere else. I think that flexibility does help, but I want to second the idea that we cannot take it as, okay, as a nation, I give you this flexibility. I try to get the employers to give you the flexibility. Then as a state, I don't do anything. Yeah. Okay, so but it's two different things, right? First thing is we are trying to encourage, and my main is the encourage part, right? It's like
I want them to mandate.
Yes, right. But okay, maybe it's a process. Also got guide first. Next year got guideline.
No, mandate.
Yes, guideline first, right? So after the guideline, then maybe we should mandate it eventually, right? Like have some sort of a framework.
If the guideline doesn't work, then you mandate.
Yeah, there's some sort of a framework.
We have
for
to,
it.
honestly, because this aged thing is just going to get worse and more painful. And unlike the previous generation, we don't have the privilege of asking our siblings to go and bring our parents to the hospital, because some of us don't even have siblings to do that with. Yeah, so then the only other option is you hire like a domestic helper or something. But some people are just not in the position of being able to hire, or you can hire but you don't trust the people. Yeah, because of all the trust issues are going on, right? So then that's why FWA needs to be mandated. So we can go and do and fulfill our family duties without hating our bosses for like, because of this, I have to be a worse family member. But now being able to have the best of both worlds and then continue on my obligation to the employer after I have fulfilled the family responsibility.
Yeah. I think actually, in all fairness, we are seeing some of this. At least, okay, so in the tech space, right? Since COVID, when FWA tech was, even pre-COVID, tech was already FWA, but it became even more so during COVID, as most industries, right? Now the big tech guys are mandating employees to come back to work 2 or 3 times a week, and guess what the employees are doing? Quit straight away. So I think we're already seeing the societal shift. Now, I'm only talking about one industry. It's going to be very different for manufacturing. It's going to be very different for
manufacturing.
Law and everything else.
Home, you gotta come on the line.
They bring the machine home, bro.
Even the research engineers, they gotta be on the line. You have to be, your machines are there.
Or ATCs, for example, right? So, but we are seeing this shift in this industry, and I'm sure a lot of other people out there listening to us are feeling the same way, right? Because in between my phone calls or in between anything, I can pick up my kid. I can just play around with the kid and have that father-son time, father-daughter time, or whatever it is that you aspire so much to always have, and you're just working to fund them.
So I think that structurally, and from a societal acceptance, situation, it has shifted. Right, so that is great lah. Okay, but I get some of these points, and we should mandate lah. Huh? We have some sort of a mandatory, or we let the framework come out first.
We let the
I mean, we don't know lah. We just say
we evaluate the guideline next year, then we see, like
the framework will come out. All the GLCs will yes. All the NTUC members will yes. Then sooner or later, 60% of Singapore already then don't need mandate.
Hopefully we get there. Okay, so that is that. But moving on from that whole like work, I realize we are still at the work, right? On some level, right? Singaporeans' life is around
family moving.
Yeah. So let us talk a little bit about the whole like family side of things. So family, society, and because I think in the paper there was also a lot of these type of different discussions. Whether is it like early childhood, whether it's education, whether is it like some of our middle class problems lah, like all these jazz, right? So anything stood out to you?
I thought it was very interesting how in the document they talk about alternative infant or early childhood caregiving services. Beyond just thinking of adding more preschool places.
Adding more preschool, adding more infant care.
Yeah, they were like saying maybe now it's left to the private, but maybe even having more like nannies and all these other alternatives, which I thought was very interesting. I'm very skeptical whether it will work.
I think it's a bit more, how in some HDB blocks you have this auntie that looks after a few children in the block. It's formalizing those kind of services.
Yes,
I think. So it's not childcare in the childcare underneath your block. It's in somebody's house, but then maybe we license them a bit so that they have good practices, so the kids don't suddenly like kaput, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
No, and in the Forward Singapore move, the document, it did write like some sort of a care structure with like grandparents, uncle,
Everybody
auntie,
needs to step in and
right?
help.
So and it's this okay. Why I highlighting, because the word is important, right? Like, you must understand, once again, these documents, words are selected, okay, not randomly someone just write for a graduation. So the fact that these words are inside, it is firstly the government recognizing that there's a lot of informal care that is going on in society, and potentially, we can either formalize it or recognize that, actually there's a lot of other man hours that come into this thing, right? Like it takes a kampong to raise a kid, right? So I think that is also an interesting part for me, but I don't resonate as much because I got no kids, but please continue. Yes.
On that note, it's pretty cool, right? Because you know how we have childcare leave, right? We have 12 days and then plus X number of childcare leave.
Oh yeah, 6 days of childcare leave.
12 normal days. Yeah, you can use it for your kid or you can use it for your parent, right? Some companies actually allow you to use it for your nephew or your niece, which I thought was pretty cool, right? And even just small things like this, I feel, as employers, we should be leaning towards all of these, right? It's these small things that make you want to stay with that company. It's not, in the end, it's not the salary.
Again, back to the company, again, back
But
to work,
sometimes
right?
it's a
Singaporean way of life.
True, but a big thing is attrition, right? Come on, we just spoke about that. Big thing is attrition, but they want you to do the best work, so on and so forth. And these small things are the ones that go a long way.
I like that we have childcare leave. My question is, why don't we have parents leave?
So they called it childcare leave, but you can use it for both.
But you see, I have children and my 6 days not enough already. Where got left to bring my dad to the hospital?
I think some companies have additional
that's the
elder
thing. So
care leave.
why is it only left to the companies to give? If we can mandate childcare leave, I'm of the view that we should mandate this because we are in an aged society
because
now.
childcare leave is a cost. The government pays for it.
Yeah, and they should take on the cost of aged leave, because the reality is we're now moving into this older society.
Excuse me, please don't raid our reserves.
I thought that was coming.
Oh my god, I was going to come out and say what economic value are aged.
Oh my god.
So then why do we need to pay? There's no ROI.
It's not that Pioneer generation, giving back.
But within the realm of like the Singapore dream, right? Because a lot of these softer things form the bedrock of the dream. I really don't think Singaporeans think like my Singapore dream is to work a great job. No, right? The great job is just the start of accumulating the resources.
The great job is the avenue by which you achieve your dream.
Yes. So,
right? The dream is not to get that job. It's what that job gives you.
Exactly, right? So it's just...
And same thing with money. Your money is an enabler. It's never an end
money's
result.
a tool.
Yes,
exactly.
So with that in mind, right, I'm sure we all realize that within the document, there's not a lot of this whole like, what is the next Singapore dream type of thing lah, right? So like maybe we can start there of like, okay, so what is the Singapore dream that you guys are thinking of? Like just paint, like what is a good quality of life that you think, the middle class Singaporeans can aspire to be?
Well, I think one of the things, I think if we look at welfare states, we look at welfare countries, it's very normal for aged parents to go to a home, but it's quite looked down upon here. It's like, why you put them in a home, you cannot take care of them. So I think, is that something that we want to discuss, right? Is this mindset shift that we should throw in with regards to tangibles that we can do to reduce the liability or the time taken for the sandwich generation?
Yeah, and I think the government is pushing towards that, right? Like they are building more homes, they are building better homes. They are building different types of homes. So not really just an aged care facility where all the old people go and stay, but it can be an entire community where the old people can hang out and have fulfilling lives and essentially enjoy their retirement, right?
Correct.
They go walk, they go do the community garden, do some gardening, get some sun. Very nice. I mean, it's a nice feeling, right? And I think increasingly as our society ages and we are not pushing them to retire overseas, they are retiring here, then we need to build up communities and infrastructure like that allows people to stay within Singapore and in a sense have a community and enjoy the fruits of their labor of working that 30, 40 years and all of that.
Exactly. And part of it is now no more, I need to bring my dad to the hospital. It's there at the retirement village, right? I think that's what they call it.
I think increasingly that there's things like that. There's like, clinics, well, not really clinics, but aged care facilities at the bottom of the block. So not just the void deck, but actual space where, you know, old people can go and, you know, they make friends, they have some activities and everybody, you know, kumbaya and enjoy life.
Yeah. Senior centers lah.
Senior centers.
Yes.
Yeah. But I also want to add that I think the public housing scheme is moving in a direction that I feel like is a bit questionable, right? In a sense that we want to guard against elderly social isolation, right? We want to have the nucleus family. We want to have the family to have more support together, you know, all these things, right? But our flats are getting smaller and smaller, okay? And the next tier is a condo, which is even smaller. We need to build bigger flats. It's not in the discussion at all.
But then they will see no space.
No, because
No.
because young people want their own space.
Yeah, so the thing is, young people want their own space because of what? Right? Is it because in the current space that they are in is too cramped? Like they cannot, you know, they just
I mean,
cannot.
it's privacy. There's
Yeah,
also
they don't-
toxic
they don't
family
have-
relationships.
So and all these, you know, can be further, you know, kind of elaborated, right? I'm throwing an idea in to think about it. Like, okay, firstly, why do young people want their own space? Is it because the current space that they're in is too small for them, such that they're like, oh, I cannot have this space? Because I just had this conversation with my cousin the other day, and she was like, I cannot tahan. I have to have my own space, right? Because this house got no space for me anymore. I've grown beyond the needs of this space.
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, fair. Then based on this idea, then you have to find a partner, you know, in a hetero relationship, and then have to go and, you know, bid for a
Dollars.
flat, right? Get a flat, and then
No, but
do
there
something
are
there.
the 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom condos that they can rent. What?
No. I'm
Rent's
not talking
not
about
purchase.
that. I'm not talking about that. So what I'm saying is, why aren't we moving into a situation where we are building jumbo flats, right? Where we are building bigger flats that require 3 names, 4 names to apply for, right? Where your mortgages are centralized together, right? Because there are 2 major shifts in the earlier days of Singapore where you see a lot of this. Number 1 was the kampong shift to HDB period, where the whole kampong was shifted into the same estate. Okay, and in that shift, a lot of your relatives are your neighbors. Upstairs, downstairs, left, right. So there's a lot of social support.
Correct.
So as much as they removed the kampong, a lot of the kampong spirit was still there. Okay, but over time, because of the whole like CMIO model, right? So there's some of this kind of shift and redistribution of housing. Over time, it leads to a situation where more and more people are staying further and further away from the family because of BTO, because of a lot of other, all these things. And all these are policy realities that were not planned from the start. Like the policy wasn't they didn't care about these things, right? Like the whole like bidding for BTO as part of a marriage proposal. Like if you build a policy, why would you care? The main thing was oversupply. That was the main reason to crack. But these are some other social impacts that have happened over time, right? So one of the social impact that I think has happened over time is this fragmentation of the family, right? Because people inherently stay further and further, and it's harder and harder because flats are smaller, and there's no second like level to go towards, right? And there are a bunch of flats that are like that. Of course, the mansionette is one, and the jumbo flats in Sembawang is also one, because they couldn't sell. No one wanted to stay in Sembawang, right? So they merged together and become a jumbo flat, and then people started shifting in.
Yes.
Inherently showing that there are Singaporean families that want to stay in the same estate, but because of the public housing structure, they cannot stay together anymore, and because of the reality. So it's not about like, oh, just go and rent another place or something. Can we build bigger flats where it requires more adult names into it?
Yeah.
Right?
Actually, I think that's a really good idea, because even now, people like families are staying together. Your mom and dad, your kids, like they're all in one HDB, right?
3 generations.
Three generations are in one HDB.
And to be fair, the 3 generation home, actually I can afford to buy 2 more rooms in this flat.
Yes.
Right? Like I can buy my neighbor's willing to say I can afford to buy, right? You know, that kind of thing. But because of the requirement, blah, blah, blah.
And I think with certain caveats, I think what you have done, or this proposal of a jumbo flat with 3 or 2, or let's call it 2 nucleuses, right, is actually quite a good idea. Because in this way, number one, you can get people to live in Woodlands, right?
Hey, Woodlands is a new high area.
Sorry. Sembawang.
tengah.
maybe even crunchy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But you know that could be a really good selling point because now you don't need to go to work. Given the FWA, let's assume that's going to happen, and you can now move people away from your clusters of Ang Mo Kio lah, this lah, that lah, and really occupy the spaces around Singapore.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't think it's a very difficult thing to build,
No.
It's just in between two flats, right? Not a door. It does not change your fabrication.
No.
Because we are all building fabrication today, right? Like what's so difficult? Just knock one door in
And,
the middle. You can still have two doors, right?
Yeah.
So you still have two gates, but we have one connecting door in the middle. And in order to apply for this, you need more adult names. And the adults can be single. Right, but tied to the nucleus family, right?
Yeah.
So the parents plus like one adult,
Yeah,
something like that.
correct.
Then they can get this kind of flat or this kind of arrangement or something like that. There's a certain classification.
support.
Yeah, so I think that is something that we can really explore. If we want to, let's say we want to anchor society with the families, which is still the case. Okay, in the document, it's very well stated that the family nucleus is
family
still
is the bedrock of society,
bedrock of society.
Yeah.
Blah blah. It's in page 5, one of the examples, right? So there are 4 main examples that they put up. 5 in the page number 5, right? And that's one of them, right? So I think if that is what we truly believe in, then our infrastructure need to look like that,
Yeah.
right? Our public housing structures need to look like that, such that we can allow people to do that. Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your chief financial coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yeah, now back to the show.
Yeah, I think that the only question I have is whether there really is demand for that. Right? So
Comment
I
in
would
the comment
apply.
section below.
yeah,
So
so,
demand
okay,
from
no,
me.
sorry. Would you buy if that meant that your in-laws or whichever parents that you're going to stay at had to sell their property and you have to sell all your property, so all the family can only own that one property? Because that's HDB.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Right?
That's what I'm trying
Yeah,
to say.
yeah.
So there are certain people that aren't in that.
Yeah, no,
in that
exactly,
range.
right. But then that kind of sells away your property as progression type of model, right? So I think that cuts across.
HDB
that's
was
one.
never meant to be an investment.
No, sorry. HDB is meant to be a store of value that funds your retirement.
I thought that was CPF.
The previous narrative.
Previous narrative. Yeah, okay.
Asset enhancement narrative. That was
Yeah,
under
previous.
Chok Tong era.
Correct,
Chok Tong
previous.
macam my friend, right?
I don't think
Then Chok Tong
already.
tell me lah.
yeah.
Yes.
That I don't think that has really changed, or at least like it's a step in your progression ladder, right? A BTO is in the quintessential Singapore, model, a step for you to gain or accumulate assets so that you can move further up the ladder, right?
What is up the ladder?
So then you
Condo
start
law,
moving
those
to
things.
So you're moving
EC,
from a
HDB to
5-room
EC.
HDB flat, which is 1,200 square feet, to a 2-room condo,
Okay,
which
no,
is 700
no,
square
because
It's
feet.
just the perceived and the asset
Okay, one
value,
is the
that's
perceived
all.
value. 2 is the secondary market value, and 3 is at the end of the day, these are 99-year leases, right? So you and your parents can own one property. Your parents pass on. I guess question whether you have to sell it or you have to get a next generation to continue that nucleus, right? Because if you buy under a married scheme and then you divorce, well, you're not really meant to hold on to the property anymore.
Yeah.
So there's all these things that you
That's
need to
a good
consider, right? And there's all these. So I think I get that, but it is a restriction, right? And maybe it's good because you bring it back to the idea of HDB is public housing. You are not meant to profit from it. You are not meant to use this to fund your condo or sell 1x2. It's just a place for you to stay, and this is the government doing their job,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then, but the second other point I wanted to say that maybe there's not that much demand is, I think, and maybe this is a function of my privilege, youngsters are different now in the sense that I have a lot of friends, parents own landed, they stay with the parents, with the wife, and then they get a whole floor to themselves. Cannot.
That one is you, lah, bro.
No, I don't have a landed. I'm sorry.
No, I say
my parents also don't have a landed, but I do have quite a lot of friends who moved in with either their in-laws or their parents, and then it is just strife because you have a pair of people, the older generation, which is their house, so and they're used to doing things a certain way, and you are younger and you have your own floor to yourself, that's fine, right? But there's different things, whether you can bring in the food that you want to eat, why are you not coming down to eat dinner with me, you never greet me in the morning, all these sort of small things, right? That lead to your life being this is so frustrating. If only they were next door. Yeah. Right? I don't want to be in the same house as them. I want them to be next door or 2 doors away where there is that bit more physical separation and I can coexist very well with them.
Fair. I mean, I get that point.
I think that these are
there's
good
merit for
points.
both.
There's merit for both. I
Because
think we can
different
definitely
families,
try and
different
do
cultures.
more. Right? And see
Comment in the comment section. Let us know if there's a demand, right?
Would you stay?
Would you stay?
Actually, he brought up a good point, right? Say the 3 of you do that and then your mum passes on. Now what do you do? Because technically now you don't qualify for that jumbo flat.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point.
It's not but to be fair, it's not a foreign concept.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not like if you and your spouse enter into arrangement to get it's a marriage basis to get a flat, and if you're younger than 35, by the time there's no dependent, you break up, then you gotta sell it. HDB says sorry, this is the policy, right? So it is not a foreign idea.
So we need HDB to fix the purpose of all these things.
Yes,
then we know how to implement it.
Okay, but housing aside, I think like we should go back to the first question, which was not answered, only answered by me. What is the new Singapore dream?
Yeah.
What does that look like for our families, for the matters of the heart, right? How does that new Singapore look like for us who want to stay here?
Mental health is a big thing. I think it's so hard to quantify because if you look at the document that we look at, they've really tried to say Singapore dream is what you want to achieve. Is what you want. They've tried to really personalize it.
It's
to what
your
you
responsibility to
Which is the
chase and
cap
achieve your
as
dream.
a platform, right?
Which is not a bad
Which is not a bad
No,
thing.
it's not bad. I'm not
thing,
saying it's bad.
okay?
And I think for me, the idea of a Singapore dream is for you to just be happy. And maybe I'll anecdote this to a conversation I had with a colleague, right? So she working in the company, so on and so forth. She quit to help her mom sell food. All right, it's a corporate job. Quit to help her mom sell food. And then I said she didn't quite share where she was going. So I said, "Oh, you're quitting? You got another job?" She's like, "Oh yeah, just family business, right?" And I was like, "Okay, are you happy?" And she turned around and she got taken by surprise because she said that was the first time somebody asked her that question when she said she's moving jobs. Because usually the question is, "Oh, how much does it pay?" Or something else. And I really think as a society, we are moving towards that. We would give up 50K a month if that means... Sorry. 50K a year. Sorry, Paise. But, people would give up that amount to have that, quality of life, to have that time for yourself, to have the mental health of not having to handle the job, the dad, the kid, all of that. So for me, I think I would say that was to be the new Singapore.
That's being alluded to, right? Because everything that you say, things like fulfillment, purpose, happiness, community, those keywords
Those
jump
are all
out.
inside.
Yeah, it all jumps out
Control
within a
F.
document. I think, that would be the Singapore dream then.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they don't explicitly say it, but that's what they're hinting at very strongly.
Well, they can't explicitly say it.
Yeah. No, it's very hard, to be fair.
Yes.
And I think from a leadership point of view as a nation, right, in order to achieve this, something has to go, right? And maybe the economic strife has to be slowed down.
Yeah.
Right? Because, let me put it to you this way, okay? As someone that employs people in different countries, right, the Singaporean better work the hardest. Right? Because
the most expensive.
Yeah, because in an international P&L, right, Singaporeans are paid the most.
Yeah.
Right? Because by the virtue of the currency and the wage expectation and everything, right?
So I'm going to change
In
that
Asia,
statement.
right? You made the
I think
most
it's
in
not about the
Asia.
Singaporean better work the hardest, but Singaporean better add the most value in terms of the critical thinking, the innovation.
Exactly. So we got to move up the value chain, right? Watch part 1. Okay? but based on that thought process, right? Then on some level, if we want people to, enjoy life a bit more, we want people to be a little bit, happier. We live in 24 hours, right? Something has to go, right? You gotta find time for the gym, right? You gotta find time for your classes, right? Find time for something else, for your kids,
You got to find time for me time.
Yeah. So you gotta do all that, right? Yeah. So in order to do all that, something has to go. we either shrink the distance to achieving this, right? Like everything is a hub, like Tampines Hub. I love Tampines Hub, right? Everything is there. You go there, one stop, you settle everything, right? So you shrink the distance to achieving it, such that it's easier to achieve more things within a set of time. So this is optimization process. Or you got to then give up something else, which is like, okay, Singaporeans, we have to mandate 8 hours, 7 hours, 4-day work week, right? Like
no
some of these
emails
things we have to
8
go.
PM?
Yeah, no
8 PM,
emails
8 PM, not 6. 8.
Universal
There are
internet.
some that do that,
some-
right?
Yeah, no,
There are countries that do
there
that.
are countries that do that, right?
Yeah, right. So exactly, right? Like some of these things will have to come in to then open up space for Singaporeans to live a life. Right. And I mean, and this is as someone that straddles between Kuala Lumpur and Singapore, right? I can tell you the people after work is different. Right. In KL, right, our people after work go play board game, go hang out. It's like a given. Hey, want to go downstairs or want to chill? Cup of coffee is very normal. Not so much beer, like, cause halal, right? So
Yeah, halal
but
beer,
other options will pop up, right? Like essentially to service the community there. But over here, Singaporeans after work cannot. I must go fetch my kids. Well, cannot. After that, I need to I got something I need to complete. Sorry, I got networking. Oh, I got event I need to go. Sorry, I got business meeting. Oh, there's a dinner, but for business. It's like everything is about work. Right. So and that's a big part
Work of family lah.
Yeah, so-
I think the distance shrinking thing is probably the most feasible how that can be implemented.
Yeah.
But I
which
think
looks
now
already like it's happening, right?
yeah, it is happening. But I think there are more opportunities for that to be extended to other areas as well. Like that distance is not fully being addressed in the age. So for kids, they're helping, right? Lots of preschools in your neighborhood. You don't have to travel so far. Or even at your workplace, you drop off upstairs, go down, that kind of stuff.
I went to the industrial area. I was like, wait, what's so
Yeah,
many?
now also have. Correct. But the
all
age, no. So we still don't have that. We still need to spend a sizable amount of time building in the process, right? When I had to bring my dad to the hospital, it's a lot of time, literally an entire afternoon off, right? And we also have things like kids enrichment. Although maybe the other question I ask is, do they really need that much enrichment? But maybe it is if we want to be critical thinkers, innovators or whatever. So having all of that in
our
that
definition of merit, we need enrichment.
in that same place, because now like the schools can be near your house, but the enrichment is not. I have to travel 1 hour to bring my kid to enrichment.
Yes.
Can we maybe shrink the distance for that?
They can build more enrichment in Tampines Hub.
Yeah.
I'm sure they already have a lot.
I don't have a lot. Don't need more. They don't need more enrichment.
My area not enough, need more.
Okay, cool. Fair. I like the discussion.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's a lot more tangible things that have popped up.
I think the other thing I want to add though, as the Singapore dream, right, is less stress. Although to acknowledge stress is also individual management, but I think as a society, what we can do, and this is what I do see it in the report, is less of a focus on like not just salary, but also on grades. And they have the entire chapter 2, right?
Yeah.
Like the first thing that they address in the document, I was like,
Grades.
wow, out of everything, I'm surprised the age society is not the first thing. It's actually about education going beyond grades, about, like learning is a lifelong thing, not making it feel like you just need to cram and survive this period of school, and then after that you're free. It's more of like spreading it out and then making it less stressful, not just for the kids, but for the parents as well.
course,
Because
of
PSL is
course.
just over, right?
Yeah.
My fellow mommy and daddy friends, I'm sure you all can relate. How many of you got sleep properly during
People take a
PSLE?
whole year off just for the kids.
Yeah,
right? It's
exactly.
crazy.
So can we make it less stressful in that regard?
Yeah,
For me-
high stakes game. I think that was the words that were.
Yeah,
was
but
used.
I
Right,
guess
yeah.
that's the function of it, right? Because that requires the entire society to shift.
Yes.
You need to make that. You fail at PSLE, never mind. There's other options. You fail your or not fail. You don't do that well at O levels to get to a decent JC, or you don't do that well at PS. It doesn't determine your
So
future.
it's really every school is a
Right?
good school.
No, not every school. Okay, every
No,
school is a
no.
good school for the purposes they are for, right? But at the end of the day, if we are really going to do this, we have to have a lot of alternative paths where not succeeding at a step doesn't push you back behind everybody else, right? And I don't know if that's possible.
I think one how that they tried to address, and I really like that idea, was opening up more spaces for the DSA program.
No, I don't think so. I think that is exactly the wrong thing to do.
It allows for capital to invade the game.
Right, because
I feel.
I'm sorry, right? I have 2 kids. They might not be academically smart. It's okay. I will find their talent. I'll spam resources there and they'll get into DSA. Can a poorer kid do that? No.
Why the poorer kid is just naturally more talented? Don't
There
need to
will be,
spend
there will
themselves
be,
in
there
the
will be,
but it's not
right?
the mass.
But
But
you
it's not
are
the mass.
presupposing
Yeah.
that they are more talented.
Yeah.
You know,
there
so
will
two
be.
equally
Like
talented
me.
kids, right? Super talented, right?
I'm
That's why
very
you're our
talented.
boss.
Yes.
Um,
No.
But isn't that better
That's why you're wearing the
than
leather jacket.
Yeah,
the current focus on academics, which you can use tuition, same concept.
No,
you pay
correct.
more for tuition
Correct.
lectures.
So,
what?
so right now you are just opening up more fronts for capital to invade the game. Right? Last time people just go for tuition. If I didn't really have tuition, but I was smart. I was good enough at exams to play the game, right? And I got into decent schools, right? But now maybe I can still play the game in terms of exams, but I have my space to play the game is a lot more limited because there's another 20% coming in through DSA, right? So I cannot play that game now, and I cannot compete in playing all the other games that these DSA kids are because they're going for swimming 4 days a week, they are going for whatever
so
music
expensive.
class.
Swimming is the most
Yeah, so you
expensive
choose your
sport.
own battle lah.
No, correct. But then you are choosing battles. I mean, all these things come at a cost,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yep.
the parents have to put in resources to push people in that direction. So it is always easier if there is one route and then everybody competes on that route. Now you have multiple routes. Everybody just goes, okay, never mind. Academically not that good. I give them a different talent. I make them pick up sailing. I make them pick up archery.
All the atas sport.
Who picks up these things?
Polo.
Right? Who plays the cello?
jockey
Horse
club
riding.
down there.
Yeah, horse riding. Who
yeah.
plays the cello, right? These are your
Yes.
DSA entrants.
Yeah.
Your DSA entrant is partially who runs the fastest, but it's also all these sports that are gated, right? That need resources for you to enter.
Yeah.
How is that not, giving more privilege?
Wouldn't-
in a sense?
So we will
What
ban
if the-
polo, archery, sailing,
Yeah,
all
like
that,
less
all
of this
skiing.
elite stuff,
all
but
banned.
more of the commoner stuff, maybe.
Yeah, but that is not the DSA, right? So okay, let's say your DSA is
Maybe then
No, okay,
your gripe,
let-
right? Is the DSA needs to be improved.
No, my gripe is not your DSA needs to be improved. Your DSA needs to be clear what is talent and what is trained, right? Which is very difficult to do at 12, right? Okay, because let's take an example, right? Everybody knows the piano. Okay, by everybody, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but a lot of people know the piano. DSA is piano playing, right? Which 12-year-old is the one with the grade 8 or a diploma in music? Right? No matter how talented you are, which is the one which has the achievement that allows you to do into DSA? Is the one with the parents with the resources to put you into that and push you in that direction.
In fact, I would think it's more important to vertically integrate higher level learning, right? In a sense of like ITE should provide diplomas, Poly should provide university degrees, right? So essentially, you make the uni thing, that pursuit less sexy, and you allow the other paths to vertically integrate, such that it does not seem like ITE means just sai one, right? Then you definitely
No, like
you're very
you
good,
are
go
not
poly.
as clear tiers.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're very good, huh? You go poly, you're very good, right? So then it's very tiered, right? Whereas if you allow for vertical integration, where, because I think in ITs it's very technical, right? So like
It is.
technical, like let's say you fix planes and all that. Why can't you just vertically integrate a diploma path for, further studies of the plane system, right? So you allow, instead of separating like technical education, the diploma, and then like the universities, you vertically integrate them such that the universities will have a more research directed path, and the ITs will have a technical development path, so the pathways are different, but one location can do everything. This is what the Germans do, okay? And the German education system is quite interesting, in this sense lah, where, and I think that would fundamentally reduce the stigma and allow for more ins and outs, right, for the individual, such that it's not just, you have to do this, then it's the next stage, and then you allow for, like more capital to come in with a high stakes game, right? So the game does not change. The game did not disappear. It just changed in form, right? Whereas if we really wanted to reimagine, like, what is learning, what does learning mean? A lot of these things can be changed, and the kind of
By addressing the stigma that
the
is
stigma
going
that-
to
that
certain
comes with
paths.
Like there shouldn't be something that is seen as second class or second tier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that is fundamentally where the education system needs to go. It's not that, these people are better, these people are worse. It's that these people can all achieve. Maybe they all achieve different things, right? Maybe they all achieve different things tangibly, but they can fulfill their potential.
Yeah.
Right. No matter which part of the system they're at.
Yes. Yes.
And I think this is also something that we talked about in part 1. The jobs have to be respected for the education to that job to be respected.
I agree. And we also need the parents.
Yeah, but not only that, right? People that go to ITE, yes, people look down on them, right?
It's the parents. You can't say, "Ayo, you go here." So the parents need to change the way they talk to the
Correct.
kids as well.
But comes to my bigger point. So by the way, just on that point, if they finish ITE and it's well respected around the world, they go to Australia, they become a tradie or whatever it is, they make a buttload of money,
Yeah.
right? Straight up. Okay. But it's look, the parents, the peer pressure, the education system, all of that I feel needs to change dramatically. And it starts from a simple point of, and I believe it's all connected, that we are chasing 3 to 5% GDP every year. Because that strive is the reason we have something called the Singapore Walk. You guys heard of that before? The Singapore Walk? It's the pace in which we walk.
Yeah.
Walk.
Okay.
Like the
W-A-I-L-K.
New York walk.
Yes.
Yeah.
The pace in which we walk is far superseding almost every expat that I know.
Have we won New York
But
yet?
we've only got 1 to 2% for a while. For a long time.
Yes.
Just saying.
But they're striving, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that is the same with our education system because everybody wants to go into express stream. Everybody wants to go into
No, sorry,
JC.
that is a band, but now no more streaming.
No more
Sorry,
streaming, no more
whichever.
streaming.
My time got
Subject-based banding.
Yes.
Okay,
Band what?
different.
Band what? A.
Full subject-based bending.
Okay, yes. The best subject-based bending and then going through, right? But it doesn't matter if you graduate at 18 or 20 because if you think about it, it's 2 years out of your 80 to 90 year life. Why does that matter? And I think that's something we need to think about.
So we know that, okay, fine, we want to be good examples. We want the kids to have a less stressful life and all of that. Do you send your kids for enrichment?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
One.
I know,
Why?
but I mean, at the end of the day, if this is all talent, if we don't train, we don't push capital in, why?
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, it is the very selfish desire for whichever interest
All
that you are
parents
in to push
want
them
the
as
kid.
hard as in the direction that you think is best for them.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's a good job, whether it's, they need to be self-sufficient, whether it's they need to stop bloody crying every time.
I sense the sleepless nights there.
Yeah, it is
A lot of
that
trigger
sort of
points
thing,
for you.
right? Like at the end of the day, as individuals, we are inherently interested in ourselves and the core around us. And I think it is wrong to say that, you should be able to sacrifice yourselves and whatever advantages you can give the people around you for the greater good of society. Right? So the presupposed, so redistribution, which is a very big theme as well, fine, I like it. But redistribution has to be built on the fact that I have enough and I have access, then we redistribute. Right? It's not, I'm barely surviving, but I should redistribute anyway because there are people worse than me. Right? There are always people worse than you. Of course. So maybe I'm selfish, fine, whatever. But that is, I think, the way I see it. I'm happy to redistribute, right? If I have access. And only up to the amount that I have access. I don't think it should be a redistribution such that I am disadvantaged. Right? Which maybe means I'm not communist, but so be it.
Fair. I like it. Yeah, and I think it's it takes some time for some of these ideas to fester and develop. So Skills Future, like NLB, I'm very happy to collaborate lah, right? But in closing, I think I want to also highlight one last thing, which is about the greenery. I think there's a continued affirmation. I'm glad that we didn't bring it up, but it means we already assume it's going to be green, right? Like we didn't even talk about like the parks or anything.
Yeah.
But
it's
it is a big part of the document also to talk about the continued protection of the better quality of life, or at least as best as it gets lah, right? Because we are a city with a relatively big industrial base also, with a lot of oil manufacturing and processing and all that. So the air quality is as good as it can get, right? And all the clean and green and all that, right? So I think we are continue to do that, which is great. So any last things that you want to bring out,
It will be another 15 minutes, so it's okay.
Actually, on this note,
let's give a conciliatory note, at the end to say like what is one thing that you really love about the Forward Singapore document.
actually, just before that, I want to touch on the green thing. I think it didn't come up for me because it has been always ongoing.
Yeah. So it's
right?
quite a given,
Since the 70s and so on and so forth. Yes, they've mandated, I think, X number of square meters you need to plant a tree. I remember this because I think my auntie said we expanded the car park in my office and now we have to plant trees. Like, and that was the first time I'm like, wow, I didn't know Singapore had these sort of policies.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. I think it's important that we need to keep it green. I think it's part of our identity when you look elsewhere. When other like nationalities come to Singapore, they're like, wow, so green, so many trees.
I like the idea of a changing social compact, right? I like the idea that, look, at the end of the day, we are going to have to shift to a bigger picture. It's not just about you and your survival. It's about uplifting the others around you, right? So I think there's a change in the social compact. There is a bit of a movement away from purely materialistic things. Why? We can have a different discussion. But, I think all in all, that's a good thing. Or even if we don't want to attach a status to it, it is a thing which is needed to keep up with the times. Yeah.
Okay.
I think for me, and I want to throw in a spanner at the end. I think it's a good starting point. I think it built a new identity for the 4G leadership. I think it's something that they want and to own. Finally, there's something that is theirs that they can continue and grow, and also give ownership to us to build that with them. I think that's so important, right? But if we're talking about, work-life balance, if we're talking about work-life harmony, we're talking about reducing the disparity of social inequality. We're talking about, a bit more of education overhaul and how we look at life, and materialistic isn't the way forward. What does that mean to our tax bracket? That's something I want to just think
about. So if we have excess, contribute more. I think that's the reality.
No,
that's the reality.
Yes, you know what that means. That means the taxes will go up.
Oh, no, COE will go up.
COE will go up for demand and supply.
That's a different discussion.
That's a different one.
No, but it is a form of wealth tax, right?
Yeah,
so COE, ABSD, all these are quasi wealth taxes.
Yes, but I'm talking about those are indirect taxations. Direct taxation, I believe, will also rise.
Yes.
Okay.
You should go first. I'll go last.
No, I got nothing to add, really. I read the whole document twice, and I think it's a relatively open document. Many of the things are what society wants, and I think I'm broadly aligned with a lot of stuff. But I look forward to budget 2024.
Yes,
I want to see
that
what
would be
the
great.
tangible policies to achieve
where they will direct the money to, right?
Yeah, so we'll cover budget 2024 next year. Stay tuned. Yeah.
This 4, right?
I think for me, what I like was the recognition and the government legitimizing it by saying, we hear you guys. We're putting it in this document so you feel heard as well. And while we cannot commit to all the things that you want us to give you, and they explicitly said there are trade-offs. So I'm like, okay, that's a good reminder. We get it. But I like that they are at least starting to acknowledge. And I feel having the government acknowledge a lot of these things that were basically just swept under the carpet for the longest time, and letting the private sector, individuals stepping up to say, and then government just keep quiet all the way and say motherhood statements like, oh, schools are good schools and all that kind of stuff. Now this is really a document that recognizes, okay, we hear you guys, we are with you, we're moving together. But yet opening up space to show that they don't have all the concrete answers either, and it's a work in progress.
Okay, great. Vote for me. Thank you.